What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.
Ad Astra, new movie out in theaters starring Bradley Pitt. It has been a good year for young Bradley. First, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, now this movie. Both great films, both very different films. Unlike Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Ad Astra has very little characters. It's a very simple movie, very minimalist. It is set in the future. Brad Pitt plays an astronaut who was inspired to become an astronaut by his father, who was a hero for exploration. He went the deepest into space that anybody had ever gone, part of a special project. But in this future time, there's these electric flares that are going on that are fucking shit up, let's just say. And Brad Pitt has been tasked with going to solve the problem, and the problem is involving his father. His dad left like 30 years ago, so it's very much a movie about father-son kind of issues, which I don't relate to. My dad left when I was 6, never heard from him again. So, like, I don't know. I mean, that's, I guess, similar to this movie where Tommy Lee Jones plays Brad Pitt's father. And he leaves when, I don't know how old Brad Pitt was when he left, but he abandoned his wife and his kid. And there's a scene at the end of this movie where, I mean, there's very, very emotional parts of this movie. The movie itself takes its time. I mean, there's not a lot of characters, there's not a lot of things going on. But it is like gorgeous. It's a gorgeous film. It's filmed in a way that makes you feel like they were in space, that you're in space with them. Not quite as much as like Gravity, but similar. Almost more similar to a style of First Man, where it's just kind of the nothingness of space is kind of represented in the audio of this film. There's not a lot of audio. There's a lot of silence. It's, many times it's very quiet. Just long takes with not a whole lot going on. I mean, it sounds boring. If describing the way this film was made, almost sounds boring. But at no point did I feel like bored. I didn't feel like I was falling asleep. Unlike the Men in Black International movie, where for some reason it just induced sleep for me on multiple occasions. This movie did not. It's only 2 hours long, which helps for how slow it is. It's just very slowly paced. I think part of the pacing is that it is a space movie. It's the pacing of the film is representative of how much space is in between. I mean, this is a movie where we're in a place where the moon is becoming like a tourist destination, and Brad Pitt is kind of on this secret mission for the government to try and contact his dad. So he has to go to an outpost on Mars, but to get there, he has to fly commercial to the moon. And it's an interesting future that this movie takes place in. Like space travel in itself is very interesting. It's not a movie that restylizes space travel in a way where like the spaceships are super futuristic and slick. Like all of the machinery and spaceships look very much like modern day NASA space travel technology. But it's far enough in the future where, people are traveling to the moon, and the moon itself, like this movie, even though it's very sparse, there's not a lot of things going, very slowly paced, it really sets up a world that's super believable. I mean, it paints like this surrounding world where, like, you know what's going on Earth. Like, these flares are just ruining a lot of things, but like you understand like what the politics are of the moon. Like, there's wars over resources because there's no boundaries on the moon. It's basically just mining companies fighting over territory. So they kind of run into that in a way where there's a part of the movie where Brad Pitt's character and his liaison, or his whatever, like the government's appointed him a babysitter. They are being transferred from the base they land on the moon to another area where they're going to take a ship to Mars, and or does he even go to? Yeah, because and then once he gets to Mars, that's the farthest out kind of that regular space travel's going at this point. But he's got to send a signal to try and reach his father that's supposedly on Saturn, or orbiting Saturn, which is the farthest out humans have traveled thus far in this point in our history, our soon to be history if we don't kill each other. But it's amazing how it just paints this world that's super believable, and you feel like you're in it, and you feel like you're on this journey, even though it's like a sci-fi movie. It's this journey of Brad Pitt traveling from Earth to this far reaches in like the journey itself is crazy, and within the journey itself, he's almost repeating the mistakes of his father. Where you start through his journey, he's introduced to new information about his dad, how the reality of the story of what happened to his dad and why he's out there is different than the propaganda that everybody, like, he's a hero on Earth, but the reality is a little bit more disturbing. And there's an instance in this movie where Brad Pitt's character almost has like a similar situation. He's trying to stow away on the ship that's going to they're sending a nuke to go blow up this thing that's causing the solar flares, and Brad Pitt finds out that his dad could be alive still there, so he stows away on the spaceship to go. And while sneaking onto the ship, due to a chain of events, he basically is repeating a similar scenario, potentially, to what his dad faced while on his voyage, and how just the insanity of what it would be like for humans to go out and try and do this, which I would imagine eventually we are going to be doing. There are going to be missions that are going to be similar to what Tommy Lee Jones was on, where, you know, it's somebody who leaves his family, who he finds a purpose. He's trying to go find life on other planets, and that's what the mission was about, was him just trying to go as far out as possible to try and potentially get better views of planets that could potentially have life. I mean, the movie, you have the whole father-son thing. You have this feeling of, you know, manifest destiny, like just trying to expand humanity and try and find life and maybe find a new planet that, you know, we can potentially inhabit and not fuck up from the start. You know, not have businesses rape the planet. So it has like really heavy themes to a movie that I think the fact that it's so minimal, it allows it to kind of break down those concepts and those ideas in a much more efficient way. So you're able to have like these really heavy things, but it's not muddled up with you know, an over bloated story with more characters than you need. It's a very simple movie, and it's a movie that I might go see again. I don't know. It's amazing, and it didn't hit me. It was a thinker. It had to like simmer in my head for a while. but it's one of those movies that I kind of enjoy more the more I think about it. And now that I know what to expect, I might go see it again. Who knows? Maybe I'll do a double feature with Rambo next week. But that's it for this episode of The Ray Taylor Show. Subscribe on IGTV, YouTube, and everywhere else podcasts are found. Go buy my artwork over at InspiredDisorder.com and save 25% when you use coupon code INSPIRED. At Ray Taylor for me on all social media. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out!